This video is about my personal thoughts on the NRL taking games to Vegas next year. Now, obviously, we know the Roosters, the Rabbitohs, the Broncos, and the Sea Eagles are the four teams that will be going. I've got my views on the teams going. I think only one of those teams is dead cert to be in the top eight at this point, although the Roosters and the Rabbitohs have a good chance themselves if they win enough of their remaining games and results go in their favour to make the eight. Broncos could even get the minor premiership yet, so there's still a few games to play. The thing is, two of those teams have American money and investment tied up in them. The Sea Eagles and the Rabbitohs, and obviously they have that celebrity connection with Russell Crowe and Hugh Jackman being fans, and Russell Crowe being part of the ownership of the Rabbitohs. The Roosters and the Broncos have a lot of Australian corporate money behind them. They're also very wealthy clubs. The Rabbitohs are one of the biggest fan bases in rugby league. And the Sea Eagles, they have that American money from the Penn family. So the teams make sense why they've been chosen. A lot of fans would like to see other teams going instead, like the Penrith Panthers and the Melbourne Storm, two of the other very successful teams in the last decade. But we got what we got. Now, in my viewpoint, I do have a few reservations, but for the most part, I'm in favour of this move. Now, that's going to be at odds with a lot of rugby league fans globally. A lot of NRL fans either want to see different teams go or maybe take games to the Pacific Islands. But I think to grow the game internationally and get that international recognition for the sport, Vegas is possibly the perfect option. Look what the city of Las Vegas has brought into sport. Now, obviously, the NHL with the Vegas Golden Knights, they've just won their first title. The team only came into existence in 2017 as an expansion team. And the Vegas public have bought into a non-traditional sport in that location. That has now encouraged the Raiders to relocate from Oakland, California to Las Vegas, and there is a lot of talk about the Oakland A's going to Las Vegas as well. So Vegas has now become a sporting hotspot in North America. Now, Vegas has got a very interesting population demographic as well, and there's a lot of Pacific Islanders in that part of the country. There's a lot of expat Australians and New Zealanders, especially on the West Coast. So there is already, I believe, rugby league fans in the US. Now, the concern I have is how the NRL promotes itself for this, how they go about the promotion, the ticket sales drive, getting US domestic broadcasters on board with the idea. Out of this, the money they're going to get out of it, just out of the gambling industry alone, is around $300 million. It's worth a fair bit of money to the NRL. What will that then mean for the gambling industry in Australia and the sport long term? We can argue the pros and cons of the gambling corporate money being tied up in this, but there are other corporations based in Las Vegas that may be wanting to get into the Australian market and sell their products and services to the Australians. So that there is a lot of corporate money in Vegas. That isn't just gambling. It's a very young, affluent city in regards to people are relocating there out of California or out of New York, for example, or Chicago, some other big like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. They are relocating to Vegas. There's a lot of business opportunities. It's a very young city in the sense of its average age. There is a lot of disposable income in Vegas. There's some high-tech industries in Vegas. There's high-paying jobs. And sports fans in Vegas have bought into the new sports that have been relocated there, like ice hockey and the NFL. The NHL and the NFL fans have bought in. It's a scramble to get tickets. So and the concern I have is about the marketing. If the NRL can really market this to the Vegas public and get as many locals into the stadium as possible, into Allegiant Stadium, which is around 60,000, 70,000 capacity. It's an all-seater. It's an undercover stadium. It's got a roof. So the weather conditions get taken out of play, which I think is very, very important considering the location of Vegas in the desert. It can either get very, very hot, or when it does rain, it chucks it down and get flash flooding. So to have that indoor stadium is important. The concern I have is, will they sell it out? That's my concern. The concern that some of the clubs had last year, which is why the games didn't take place last year, is there a long-term plan for this not to be a one-off, but a long-term investment by the league? Obviously, in recent months, we've had the protracted CBA negotiations. Now, I honestly believe if the playing group, the RLPA, were not in favour of this, they would have really dug their heels in and we would have seen a strike. When the NRL announced they are confirming these teams, we're going to Vegas, that didn't really come out of the RLPA that they were against it. So obviously the revenue sharing aspect of this Vegas experiment has been sorted out. And of course the salary cap goes up next year anyway. And then you add in a minimum projected income of at least 300 million American dollars into the NRL. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of revenue coming into the league for 2 games with the related sponsorship and endorsements. So there's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs. The unknown is will the Vegas fans turn up? I believe they will. I believe there'll be a fair few Australians and Kiwis that will also go over to watch games. A fair few fans will probably go over from the east coast of Australia. Another concern I do have is will the players behave? Vegas is known for its partying kind of atmosphere, the casinos, the nightclubs, and of course we know that in the past players have had an issue behaving themselves, which is a concern. Will the players let down the league and let down their clubs through misbehaviour? We see it every off-season. We see it at the end of every season. We see it throughout. I mean, Dylan Brown, for example, this season has had some legal issues. At the end of, Reece Walsh recently has had some problems when he was at the Warriors. Now he's gone to the Broncos. We've seen players misbehave, which is a problem and which is a concern. But the thing is, this is a big risk the league is taking. But without this risk, you don't get the potential reward. So that's why I'm not against taking games to Vegas. And I think Las Vegas is the perfect city in the US to try and grow the rugby league brand and get a load of North American fans invested. What is going to be interesting to me is how they promote that through the media partners in the US. That'll be interesting on which broadcasters are going to pick it up. Will it be Fox? Will it be NBC? Will it be ESPN? Regional broadcasting of sports is a bit of a mess. It has to be a national broadcaster. So that'll be interesting to see which national US broadcasters they sign up for the Vegas games. But I'm cautiously optimistic that I think this is the path that is a good path to take. But circle back to things like the NFL and the NBA and Major League Baseball and the NHL taking games overseas. When they first started doing it, there was a lot of risk attached. There was a lot of risk, and it has actually borne a lot of economic fruit for those major leagues in North America. It's definitely grown their appeal, their brand, and their foothold in non-traditional markets such as Europe. The NHL and the NBA, basketball and ice hockey are very, very popular in continental Europe, but it has definitely helped grow those sports outside of North America. Now, the NHL is taking games to Australia next month, admittedly pre-season games, but they are taking games to Australia. And that is a concern, is that these major leagues from the US get into the Australian market. So the Australians want to get into the US market. I think that is totally justifiable. But I do have some concerns. The crowds may not be great. There may be some pitfalls, but we've seen what the Super League attempted with the Toronto Wolfpack. And yes, COVID did speed up the Wolfpack's eventual demise, but the way they were playing before the pandemic, they were 0-5. They were getting hammered every game. They had some bad contracts. They were not Super League standard. And it was very, very obvious that this team had financial issues long before COVID. The team was a mess. And that was the Super League idea, to try and grow the game in North America. This is the NRL idea: take established NRL teams, take them over, play some competitive matches, not exhibition games. These are competitive matches for league points. I think the players will treat it similar to an Origin series in the sense of their preparation and how they're going to approach the game. I think the intensity levels are actually going to be higher than your regular run-of-the-mill regular season game. They'll treat it like a finals experience. I think the players are going to treat it as they would treat Origin or the finals. I think they're going to up that intensity level, and we'll see how it plays out. I mean, there is a lot of risk to this, but I'm cautiously optimistic. That's my personal view. There's a lot of rugby league fans who will disagree with that point of view, and that is totally acceptable. There are a lot of concerns and cons to this plan. It's outweighing the pros in some cases, in some people's views. I understand some of the cautious negativity around it and some of the fans being a little bit uneasy about this. I completely understand that, and that is, I think, something that the NRL needs to bear in mind. If this doesn't go to plan, if the crowd numbers aren't great, if the games aren't great, if the viewership figures on TV, especially in North America, aren't great, then yes, they may have to reevaluate how they promote it. The Rabbitohs last year stated if they were to sign up, they need a long-term commitment. So I think the NRL's in this for at least the short to medium term. This is not going to be a one-off. We're going to see more regular games taken to North America. We'll have to see if it bears fruit, if the game can turn professional in the US and Canada, if they can be a decent quality level of rugby league played. If it does grow the interest, if it does bring in more money to the league, if it grows the international fan base, then surely that is a positive. But there is a lot of risk. The risk is they don't just stick in Vegas, they go maybe to LA, Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, maybe up to Utah, to Salt Lake City. They take it away from Vegas and it doesn't have the same impact. I think they are committed to Vegas. I think that is going to be where they take the games, like the NFL takes games to London. They've committed long term to Wembley and the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think this is a long-term commitment. But that's my personal view on things. A bit of a long-winded ramble, but in all honesty, I'm in favour, cautiously. I think the NRL needs to do things properly. But we've seen, and a lot's changed since Rugby League last was taken, like the Origin games, and I think Wigan played Warrington, I think it was. Since the last time there was a serious attempt to try and take games to the US, a lot has happened in the last 30, 35 years. There's a lot more money in the game. The TV deals are worth a lot more. The players now are fully professional. So the world has changed since they last attempted this in the late 80s, early 90s. I've done my history of rugby league in the US, and it's a mixed history. There's some ups and downs there. But I think this could be the kickstart we need, because the IRL is not doing a great job running the international game. Super League have tried. I think they got their strategy wrong. COVID obviously didn't help, but they got their strategy wrong. Let's see what the NRL did. That's my view on things. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on taking games to Vegas, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.